Welcome to I'm an Asset podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Breanne Smith.
And I'm your other host, Zachary Wilson. Today we're talking about year-end planning or planning for the next year. At the time of recording this, it is the day after Christmas, which means that the new year is approaching quickly, and the new year kind of starts, it marks a time for a clean slate and a new start. And so we're going to be talking about, goals, mainly financial goals, health goals, and just, what we want to accomplish in this next section of our life.
Yeah, I think it's a really good time of year to be thinking about what you did this year as far as making an effort towards your goals and things that you wanted to accomplish in 2024, reflecting on those things and what worked maybe and what didn't, and then setting some new ones for next year. I think I heard somebody say recently, what's the next level up for you look like? The next level you. And, so like, what's the 2025 you look like? And it's a really great time. I have a very specific process I go through at the end of every year. It usually takes me all of December to kind of go through it. But I think it's a good exercise.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think the end of the year is not only, nearing the start of the new year, but also a good time for reflecting on last year, like you said. So what, is there any big events that happened this year that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit a couple of episodes ago that I had this crazy idea at the beginning of the year to do 75 hard. And I started it on January 1 of 2024. And 75 hard is it's like a fitness challenge, but it's pretty much an overall lifestyle health challenge. And it involves 2 workouts a day and sticking to a meal plan and just really doing what you said you were going to do. And I think that started off my 2024 very strong because I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in those 75 days. I got really fit. I've been able to maintain that fitness and got really into Pilates and walking and eating healthy. And I think that was probably the biggest goal I had set that I accomplished that has actually, stuck throughout the year and benefited me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, that's not just reflecting on this year, but that's also something you were talking about doing next year. And that's I really like that program because, it's discipline and it's intellect with the reading and it's health with the, what you're eating and what you're doing with your body. That is something I definitely recommend, and I haven't even done it. So, but I might do it this year.
You think so?
Something along the lines of it.
Yeah.
And come January 1, those gyms are always packed.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ridiculous because, there's so many people who are wanting the same thing. And, but inevitably it kind of fizzles out. And I've personally experienced that fizzling out. It's hard keeping up with some high expectations you set yourself for the beginning of the year. Would you say with 75 hard or New Year's resolutions in general, was there some kind of trick for self-discipline you learned that helped you keep it up?
Yeah, I think the one thing that really stuck with me that I really liked about just doing 75 hard is that it came with an app that had a checklist. And I got in the habit of tracking my fitness health goals every day. So part of it is you have to drink a gallon of water every day. So I had an app that I could track how many ounces of water I was drinking. Every time I drink a 12-ounce can of water, I would mark it down, and so that I could get to the full gallon every day. I got really addicted to tracking everything, and I think that was very helpful in me pushing forward towards a goal. And other goals that translates over into other goals as well, not just fitness and health. But I think if you during this process of planning for next year, and it's really so much more than just New Year's resolutions, when you're going through the process of planning for next year, you should write it down, and then goals for next year and write them down.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. I'll say, in my experience, if there was something stopping me from pursuing a goal, it would be just setting the goal. But then, it's a big goal, and every time I think about it, it's kind of overwhelming to the point where I don't want to do it, and I can't bring myself to sit down and think it all out because I'm viewing it as the whole goal. And so I think what would be a better idea, which is what you just said, would be to write it down or like make steps along the way, break that goal down into tangible
Actions.
little like things you can do to actually get there. And that way, not only won't it be not so overwhelming to tackle, but you'll actually have a method to complete your accomplishment. So that's a little advice that I have not followed myself, but I will.
Well, that is very similar to what the process I go through, and of course you can make this work for you. But what I do is I focus on like 5 main areas in my life, including relationships, work. For a long time it was school, but I don't have school anymore. Also, fitness and health. And those kind of things, you break it down into the categories that are important to you, and you write down where you want to be next year at the end of next year. But then you can't just leave it at that. Like you said, the next page, you write down actions that you would take to move towards that goal. It's not just a jump right into, whatever. So, for example, if you wanted to lose 10 pounds, you might say, well, the action steps I need to take for losing 10 pounds are I need to exercise 3 times a week, stay inside a calorie deficit and maybe eat more protein or something like that. So you would write down the action steps and then you would start towards that. What's really great about that is that when people start asking you to do something or things come up in the new year, if they don't fit it within inside of the actions that you said you needed to take or that you were going to dedicate for yourself, it might be easier to say no and have a little bit more clarity on what to say yes to versus no.
Yeah. And in our episode where we talked about time management, I think to add on to what you just said, and the whole just an example would be when we'll use your example with the whole health and fitness thing and what do I need to do to reach that goal. I think what I and other people don't necessarily take into consideration when making these goals is not just doing them, but taking time to research doing it. Because, if you wanted to lose a certain amount of weight, you would have to know, what calorie deficit and, how often you should be exercising and what exercises should you be doing. And, that time, you're not just taking time doing all those things and prepping the food and actually exercising, but you also take a lot of time researching those things. And so that's something you have to take into consideration. And on top of that, you have to think, do I have the time to do that? And that's when you ask yourself, is it important enough to say yes?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really helpful in a lot of things that we're talking about. Is there anything in particular in 2024 that you would said that you think was a goal you could check off the list, or at least you're working towards?
Like something I accomplished, or I would say getting this job. Definitely. I wanted something that was more sustainable than my last job. Don't get me wrong, I loved working there, but it was just something I couldn't see myself doing, long term, that was actually going to make me something I could actually build on top of. You know what I mean? There's only so much I could do there. So this job has more room for growth, and that gives me, hope in the long run. And also this podcast.
Yeah.
I really like, this was a big accomplishment for me. I really do like giving advice and imparting, you know, the things I know. If you can have, it's kind of always been a little goal of mine to be able to do something like that. And I love the setting we do it in, and I like that I get to do it with you.
Yeah, podcast is a huge check off the list to do. It's probably been on my goal list for a few years, and never really could think of the exact direction to go with it until you and I started talking about this one in particular. It's exciting to see it here.
I also got accepted into the university I wanted to go to, and I got a big scholarship for that university. That was a big goal of mine. I'm still working on, you know, that. I'm trying to pay for it all myself if I can, which will be very difficult in a 2025 goal for sure. And I was captain of my travels team. That wasn't necessarily a goal I've had in my head for a long time, but, you know, recently when I saw the potential to take that leadership position, I had to work to get there, and I'm really glad it worked out and I was able to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm setting a similar goal for my team at school. Let me see if I can do the same.
Yeah. Good. That ought to be a clear choice, in my opinion.
Yes. So let's I think this is a good time, since we're already kind of getting there, shifting to, so we were just talking about, you know, this past year in reflection. I think it's time to shift a little bit to more, what are some goals we're setting for this year? Like I said, we're already kind of talking about that. So what are do you have any kind of idea of what you want to get done this year?
Yeah, so let's kind of do it by category. I think that'd be helpful. So like health and fitness.
Okay.
It's an easy one to start with. I feel like that's probably on everybody's list. Generally, is I'd like to maintain where I've, you know, been this last year. I'd say that December, since Thanksgiving, we went on a trip in Thanksgiving, and December has just been wild with travel and family and eating out all the time and shopping and doing all of that. And I think next year, just hitting the ground running with back on my, you know, my maintaining general fitness plan, where I, you know, work out every day and I eat right, and, you know, I don't eat all the bourbon balls and the chips and dip and all the casseroles that we've been having here lately. So I think as far as fitness, I really want to focus maybe a little bit more on more holistic. I haven't really dug deep into worrying about too much what's in ingredients and processed food and all of that. I do eat pretty healthy, but I don't, you know, I also really like convenience. And so sometimes picking convenience can be at the detriment of, you know, bad ingredients in your food. So I think that's something that I want to add this year to my health journey.
I know what you mean. And that actually gives me some ideas, because I was definitely focusing on the exercise portion of the health and fitness. But for sure, I haven't really been considering a lot of what I've actually been eating. You know, there's a lot of processed food. And, you know, I'm about to be a college student, and that comes with a desire for convenience, especially with my daily itinerary will be very busy, and it'll be tempting to want to do that. But if I manage my time well, I should be able to prep in advance. So yeah, I should watch what you're doing. You and Roy are good about preparing in advance, so I need to start learning to do that. Fitness wise, definitely stay conditioned and condition further for soccer. I want to be able to keep running and run further, and, you know, be able to go through an entire game without, you know, having to come out of the game.
Yeah.
And I know I've thought about this before when I go to college, I might not be playing soccer so much. So I wanted to not be so lean and actually start building a little more muscle. And I know that takes a lot of, you know, consideration into what foods I'm eating and
Yeah.
how I'm working out and stuff like that. But that was a goal of mine for the latter half of next year, would be to do some muscle building.
Yeah. That's good. I like that goal. I think when we're thinking about personal capital, if you're not healthy, it's really hard to accomplish anything else. And so health and wellness and fitness is a big part of building your personal capital just in general. Second category, this might be a tough one, relationships. So I always like to think about, and I usually in my plan name specific people. So I'll say you, Lauren, your sister, your brother, my fiance, my parents, my siblings, or even, maybe employees or a boss or people in your life that you want to focus on relationships. Or maybe there is a relationship category that is not filled by a person's name. And maybe that's something that you want to focus on this year is, a relationship with, maybe you want to have more friends, or maybe you're looking for a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever. And so this is a good place to think about those things, so as far as goals for me and my main relationships are the three of you guys and my fiance. Of course, extended family is important, but we're kind of in this transition right now where the kids are getting older and they're moving to college, and I'm seeing them less and less. And our dynamic is changing a little bit. It's not bad. It's just different. And so really trying to focus on one-on-ones with the three of you individually in our own ways is definitely a goal for 25. And then, I'm getting married in May. So really thinking about all of us blending this summer and how to do that in the least disruptive way. And, we're combining households and blending a family, and that can be challenging. So just planning for that to be successful transition.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not bad. It's just a little different. And, it's natural to have a change. And I think in the end, it'll work out. And for me, like you said, I'm going away. I'm going away
Yes.
to college next summer. So that with me will come a new challenge of meeting new people at my college. I definitely wanted to work on, meeting new friends and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I have friends, but it's just, I want to meet people who are like-minded and who I can actually hang out with consistently, which I'm not always able to do right now because I'm just I'm in, soccer and school and a job and all this other stuff. So, yeah, definitely that. And, but also to hold on to the relationships I have back here, because I don't want to forget, I'm not going to forget you guys, but like, I don't want to, not see, how do I say this? I want to come back as often as I can, but there's a degree of independence that I should start to learn while I'm at college. So,
I've always told your sister when she was looking at schools, like, if you're going to go away to school, you can't come home every weekend. If you come home every weekend, you need to go to school in town. This is the whole point of you moving away and going to school involves you being in a dorm and, having all of the things that you need to live independently and far away. If you're going to come home anyway, then you don't need those things and you can just live here. And, since we knew she didn't want to do that, and I know you don't want to do that, then nobody is expecting you to come home every weekend. Of course, we want to see you, but having you grow into that. College is such a great place to grow up in a, nice little community of other people also trying to grow up.
Yeah. And it definitely is, a nice community, a haven. and that's what it's meant for. If you ask me, for the most part. Now, one more thing to touch up on relationships. I'll say, like my grandfather, I like setting aside time to go see him. And, lately I haven't been too good about that because, Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's hard.
It's been crazy.
But I don't want that to be an excuse. And I have gotten to see him over the holidays. But it's not just him in particular. I mean, in general, setting aside time to actually spend it with people with the purpose of, one-on-one, and not just, seeing them out of convenience or just your family get-togethers.
Yeah, I think those are good goals, and I know your papa appreciates that. All right, you ready for another category?
What's the next category?
Okay, so I also like to think about spiritual goals.
Okay, for sure.
And this year was, kind of a really cool year where Roy also joined the church that we go to, and he got baptized, and I told him I would do that with him. So I also got baptized this year. He went through the training, or it's not a training, it's a new member kind of class. It's a 3-week program at the church, and I did that with him. And we just, it's kind of like starting new. And even though we've been going to church here for a while, kind of doing all that together was what we did this year as far as spiritually. One thing I would say, and this is just kind of a confession, is I've always been really good about doing a devotional or reading my Bible every day. And I really haven't been consistent with that this year. And so my goal, which, I have in the past been very consistent with that, but this year I dropped it, a lot of it, and it wasn't consistent with daily reading. And so this year I'm going to pick it back up and be more consistent with my, my devotionals, my daily devotionals, quiet times.
I like that. And I will be pursuing a similar goal. I haven't been baptized yet, but that's because for me, in particular, I really view that as a very big step. Not, so I've just put a lot of I don't know if I'm overthinking it, but when I do make that decision, I'll be very sure that, that is what I'm doing. And I think, personally, that means a lot. It would mean a lot more to me if I did take the extra time. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And also, finding some church friends that I fit in with. I already have some, and I like that a lot. But we're all at that age where we're starting to go off to different places, and so I don't know if that'll stay together. So maybe finding a new church home when I go to Bama.
Yeah, and your sister really has found a couple of places that she likes to go on a regular basis. There's a place like on a weeknight that she goes to for a college Bible study, but then she goes somewhere else on a Sunday morning. She does a Wednesday night worship somewhere else. So there's all new churches and places and people up in Tuscaloosa. And so there will be a lot of opportunity to find, what fits for you.
Yeah.
That's good. You got any other spiritual related? Did we hit them all?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. And
well, I did want to lead a Bible study for my soccer team.
Yeah. Okay. And you led a 5th grade, was it 4th or 5th grade?
4th and 5th.
Bible study this past semester. Are you going to continue to do that next year, or is it over now?
We'll have to see. Maybe if I can kind of somehow get how the kids would like that, or if the parents like that a lot. If I genuinely made an impact, then I would like to do it more. And it was hard work getting up and setting aside time to actually make plans for what I'm going to talk about. And the meetings themselves, it's difficult with younger kids and their attention spans.
Yeah,
which is natural, but it's hard sometimes. But I would like to do it again. And I also did a Bible study for my travel soccer team.
You did an FC, like an FCA. Yeah.
And those were for, more people closer to my age, some a little younger. And then kind of the same age group I did with my church friends.
Yeah.
So I did like
So
3.
you did 3 this year.
Yeah.
This semester. Okay. So you're going to do at least one, you think, in the spring?
I think I would like to try. Yeah. I would like to do that.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. That's a good goal. Okay. So the education or growing in your learning is the next category.
Oh, okay.
So since I'm not in school, this might look a little different for you because you are in school, but doesn't necessarily have to be related to school. Is what do you want to learn next year? And I think, I'm an avid reader and I like to read a lot. I have not, like I said, I haven't been reading a whole lot this year. So I think definitely picking up reading again and being a little bit more consistent with my reading. But the areas that I'm really focusing on advancing my learning next year are going to involve technology and just making sure I'm up to date on technology. Technology is so important, not only in what I do for a living. So here at the office, we always say we're an accounting technology firm. So we are accountants, but we specialize in transitioning people in their accounting software and training teams and systems and processes. Well, such a rapid advancement in technology over the last couple of years in artificial intelligence and AI, we just have to stay up to date with tech. So I find that very important for me to do. I also teach accounting information systems at college. And so it's very important for me to keep the students, what I'm teaching students, to be up to date as well. So next year, as far as learning, I'm really going to be focused. And I did focus on that a lot this year, but I need to make sure that I do it even more next year.
I see. Yeah. And in my education pursuits, what the very broad way I will describe it is going from kind of just being in high school and just learning what they give me to focusing on, what I actually want to learn. That's kind of blunt, but the way I see it is, high school, you have to take certain core classes and, you have to be there. You have to have a certain amount of classes. You can't just take what you want and leave.
Yeah.
And I think I need to start focusing more on like books and reading, particularly ones that will help my strengths and or even out my weaknesses, stuff that is more catered to me. And also, with college in general is more picking what you're going to use in your career and stuff. So I'm kind of making that transition as far as education goes. Can you think of anything else I'm kind of doing?
Well, I think for you, you have a huge goal next year of actually getting to school, getting up to campus, getting moved in, and at some point in the summertime, you will pick your first semester schedule. And so really, thinking about where you want to start with a major is going to be an important goal, and kind of, you're going to want to do well your first semester. And that's a good goal for 2025, is to do well in your classes. It's very challenging to move to a new place, have a whole set of new people, a whole set of new teachers, and a new schedule and new roommates that, focusing on just transitioning well to a college setting, I think is a good goal.
For sure. It'll take a lot of work, but it'll be worth it.
And a lot of grace and just understanding, like giving yourself permission to struggle a little bit, because it's not just you flip a light switch and it's going to be easy. You're a really good student, but it's also we're picking you up and we're putting you somewhere else in a new setting, and it's challenging. So giving yourself some permission to figure it out for a little while is going to be good. You ready for the last category?
Let's hear it.
So it's work or career goals. And mine is pretty simple. I am on tenure track at the college that I'm in. And so as far as being a professor, I have a very aggressive publishing goal next year.
Okay.
I'm going to try to and I've got several papers I'm working on right now, but I've kind of let them drag on throughout this year. And so I'm going to try to get, I'm not going to try, I am going to get 4 is my goal. 4 publications next year.
Wow. That's a lot.
And I have that many working papers. So I just need to finish them and get them in a journal. That's my goal for work. And then as far as here at the firm, we have the biggest team we've ever had. And my goal is to, we are transitioning several softwares at the new year, which you have been instrumental in helping set up. And so just having that be a very good transition for everybody, making sure we remain a good, productive team with a nice environment to work in and a culture that is balanced and not hectic and stressful and slamming doors and stuff like that. We've been able to maintain that up until now. So we're just going to try to, my goal is for that to be continued to be nice place to work. I heard somebody last week refer to building a great team is kind of like how they built a team in Ocean's 11, where everybody on that, have you seen Ocean's 11?
I have. I'm just trying to see
Okay.
how you're going to tie this in.
So everybody on that team is an expert in something,
Yeah.
and they're working together towards a common goal, which is, yes, to steal a bunch of money, but nobody is competing against each other on that team. Everybody has their part and their role. And so I was thinking today, like, that's how I want our team to be here. And that's a good goal for me to think of as far as team building in 2025, is to help everybody understand and feel good about the role that they're in and what part they play in our Ocean's 7. It's actually, maybe it's not Oceans, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where we're not competing against each other because we're all very important parts of the whole. So,
Yeah. Oh, I know I made that comment about the corporate ladder last episode about how, well, because, you know, when you have people who are in fulfilling a similar role, sometimes there's a promotion, only one promotion to be given out. And so you see a little bit of competition. But, you know, I agree with you. I don't think there necessarily needs to be competition. And when you have people that are understanding and smart like you do here, I don't see that at all.
yeah.
And I think you're right that we need to be a team. And I like the environment we have now a lot. So
Good. How about for you?
I see it continuing. You said what?
How about for you?
For me, my work goals. Well, I do work here, so there are some similar, for sure. You know, there's some new projects we're doing, and of course with the new people, getting along with that. And also, I am going to be trying to juggle this while my last soccer season and season of high school is coming up. I do definitely want to keep working here and doing as much as I can, because I'm learning a lot here for my future self. And so this place, and, you know, having a job in general, well, like, there hasn't been, when's the last time I haven't been without a job? It's been for like,
Definitely since you've been 16.
yeah, it's been a while. So I would prefer to keep working as much as I can. And because I don't want to just not work for a while.
Yeah.
And then when the summer comes along, definitely kicking it into high gear, getting as much as I can while I am here, and then continuing to do everything I can while I'm away.
Remotely, yes. So you're going to be transitioning from being in the office to remote in the fall when you go to Tuscaloosa. So we are working together on what that will look like.
And we have someone here who does something similar, and they do a great job at that. So maybe I should talk to them and kind of get some tips on how to effectively do that. because I do want to contribute. And, there are, I could just, have a set of tasks I do, but I want to be able to do that. And I want to be able to contribute and add more and learn more while I'm away as well.
Yeah. And again, transitioning from being in person to remotely working is just a new dynamic, and you have to be really structured in how you work. I think my personality, I work from home all the time, but being at home, that being my normal, would be very difficult for me because I really like to be somewhere else from the house when I'm doing my day-to-day kind of work. And
I know what you mean.
I feel like I'm a little more productive when I'm here. So having, just a separate space that you work and go to when you do work and separate time, I think will be helpful in structuring it. But I do think it's a good idea to talk to the people who do work remotely that work here and how they've made it successful. So,
yeah, and I see why you bring that up. There are studies about how the environment you're working in affects your productivity, particularly with working at home. And I like, even if I was at home and no one could see me, when I worked for stuff in the past, what I would do when I worked remotely in the past, what I would do is I would dress up in my work clothes. And that kind of, I don't know what that was. It made me feel like I was at work.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel productive.
Yeah. One trick that I did, I like to pick separate locations for different things. So I mentioned writing papers. I find it very difficult to write here.
Okay.
I find it very difficult to write when I'm at the house. I write much better and more creatively when I'm sitting at like a Starbucks or a restaurant with a laptop.
Interesting.
And you almost like can't get up and do anything else because then you'd have to pack up all your stuff. And it's almost like it keeps you focused for a few hours. And that's how I wrote my dissertation when I was in a doctorate program. Was I wrote all of it pretty much at various locations of Starbucks because I couldn't write at home and I couldn't write at work. And I would just pick times and I would write strategically elsewhere. So that's, you just have to pick the place that you work best for whatever certain jobs that you have.
All right. Well, I think we're out of categories. Am I right?
We are out of categories, although of course you can make this process work for you and pick your own categories. But those are the main 5.
Yep. Everybody has their own goals, but you and I are similar in that we're very structured people. And so would you agree?
Yeah.
I think that's where I got it was from you.
Yeah.
So we like to break stuff down so it's a little bit easier to digest and remember and see the bigger picture. So
the next step after you go through this process we just did as we talked to each other about our goals in those 5 categories is to do what you said earlier, which is now break down action steps that you need to take related to those goals to accomplish them next year. And those are the true goals, are the action steps, not necessarily the overall vision. So if I said, I really want to work on my relationship with my daughter, then maybe action steps would be, talk to her every day on the phone, see her once a month, participate in, the events that she invites me to. Those are the action steps that are really the things to be working on next year. And it's easier to check off action steps than just one grand big, goal.
Well, we got a lot done here today, and I got a lot off of my mind. I feel a lot better now. And I'm glad y'all could join us. I hope you can put some of these tips and structure for how you kind of break this down on your own for the new year. We're excited. Yeah. 2025.
It's just around the corner. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today, and Happy New Year, y'all.
Happy New Year.